Hi guys, in this video we're going to create a toast notification using native perspective components, so no third-party modules. This is something I was working on one day this week, and I thought it would be neat to show everybody else who might want to have toasts in their project. A toast, let me Google this real quick to show you. I think Bootstrap uses this terminology, but all a toast is just a notification, a little pop-up that comes up usually in the corner, top right, bottom right corner, or maybe in the center. So something like this, whether it's a success message or an error message, I believe it improves the user experience when they see feedback on if they need to correct something, if something was successful, and so on. And also I saw a post on the forum, some guy was learning how to build their own perspective module, and the first kind of little project he did was to create a toast. So I thought it'd be interesting to also implement that kind of feature by using native perspective components and also just a little bit of CSS. So I have my designer open already with a view. This is just an example view. All of this doesn't really matter. You'll see that we're going to add a few components to this view, but this is just for demonstration purposes. And then here it is in a session. So all it is just this view. And then on this alert button, we're going to trigger the toast to come up. So we're going to add a toast, and then the little notification that comes up has a closed icon, and we'll use that to dismiss the toast. So we can both add and dismiss notifications on using scripting. So it doesn't even have to be a button. It can be a message. It can be just an event that happens and triggers a toast. So the button was the easiest way to demonstrate that. So let's go ahead and start. What we will need. So in any view that you want to add a toast, the first thing you're going to need is to drag on a flex repeater. Flex repeater component, so this can be dragged on. Actually, let me deep select this here. That way I don't add the flex repeater where I don't want it to be. Okay, I'll add the flex repeater there. We're actually going to modify it a little bit so it doesn't really matter where it goes, as far as I know right now. It might matter here, but we'll test this out. So first thing we want to do, we want to modify some of the style properties. We want to modify, some CSS style properties. So let's go ahead and add the first one, which will be, let me look this up. I want to add it in the correct order. Okay, so the first thing we're going to add here is position, fixed position. So this means that instead of adapting to whatever else you have on the view, it's going to be a fixed position from top, bottom, left, or right. And actually the next property we're going to add is we want bottom, so let's say 50 pixels from the bottom, 50 pixels, and right, we want 25 pixels. So, and then let's also add, let's make it grow, and let's make it about 600 pixels here. And let's add a border, that way we can see where it appears. Border 1 pixel solid red. Okay. Oh, okay, I see. Here's the dot here. So we're also going to add width 100%. Or max width. Max width is what we want. Max width 100%. And then we're going to add a static width here. Width, so 300, let's go 356 pixels. There we go. And that should be it. So we see that for now, we don't have any instances here defined. So for now, it's just going to look like a straight line. And even when we save this and we go into a session, when you update, you're going to get this straight line that's 25 pixels from the right. That is 50 pixels, I believe, from the bottom. I think that's what we defined. Let's actually add it and make it 65 pixels, just because we want the button to be visible. So let me go back here. Bottom, let's go 65 pixels. Okay, so we can see where it's going to appear. That way it doesn't cover our button, because that's what we're going to use to trigger the toast to come up. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually add the view that's going to come up as the toast. So let's create a new view here. Toast instance, maybe. Toast instance, let's make it a flex container. Okay, we don't need a page URL. And here's the toast instance. We're going to set its width to 365, I believe was what we... let's set it to about 100. We might change this still. Okay, what we want a few components here. We want a label. We'll actually want let's do an icon. Drag on here, and we want a label. This will display our actual text here. We want the label to fill most of the space. We want this icon here to be material close. We want the color to be var neutral 50. So this is a CSS variable, and I think we want here the width to be 18 pixels. Yeah, about right there. And then we want to move it to the complete right side. So align self, flex start, flex end. Okay. And let's also add margin right, say 15 pixels. Oh, that's too much. 10 pixels, still too much. Maybe 5 pixels. There we go. So here's our close icon. This label here, let's add padding left 15 pixels. Yeah, let's add 5 pixels, and let's actually change this to margin. And then we're going to, no, let's add this, change this to padding left. Sorry about that. The reason why I'm getting confused is because on our root here, we're going to have a border on the left. So let's add this border left 1 pixel solid. Right now we're just going to set it to a variable, but this will change. Oh, let's make this a little bit thicker. There we go. Okay, so this is what our toast instance looks like right now. We're going to modify it some more, but before we go on, before we do anything else, let's add a few view parameters. Let's add index. This will be the index of the instance. This will be used for deleting. Let's add text. This is a toast. This will be the actual text that will display here in the label. And then let's add level. This will determine our color. So let's go ahead actually and finish off the bindings here. So on the label, obviously this will be the easier one. The text here will be bound to the input param here called text. There we go. This is a toast. And the border, so let's go to the root border left. This will actually be something different. It'll be a binding, so let's bind it first to the level here, and then we can do this a few ways. I usually don't ever use the map component, but we can use the map component here just so you're familiar with how it works. Okay. The fallback, this will be, so this is the default color if the input is unrecognized. You'll understand what I mean by unrecognized. We're going to have 4 levels. If it's neither of the 4 levels, it'll just be this neutral gray color. But if the level is success, we want it to be a green color. If it's error, we want it to be red. If it's warn, we want it to be like a yellow or an orange. And then if it's informational, we want it to be a blue color. So let me go ahead, let's go ahead and add those colors. So success, I found some colors already. Let's do 2D, 9D, 7, 8. This is a good success color. Whoops. 2D, 9D, 7, 8. Come on. Maybe I need to put it in quotes. Hashtag 2D, 9D, 7, 8. There we go. And then if it's error, we want it to be a red color, so we can do E34 850. This will be a nice red color. And then if it's warm, I think we want to do, I think this is a yellow color, FFB400. And then for info, the last one here, we want a blue color, just a neutral color. So 2680 EB. Just like this. And then we can go, oops, I forgot. One last part of our transform, we're going to actually set the border, because remember this is on the border left. So let's do an expression here. Just, this is a interesting binding in and of itself because we have a few different transforms. So just so you can get comfortable using transforms, this might even be helpful for that reason alone. So let's do a concat expression. We're going to concatenate 5 pixels solid and then our color. There we go, just like that, and it'll return here. Whatever color is passed in, it'll set the color to this left border here. So let's go ahead and test this actually. Let's run through our, so for error, we should see red. There we go. For info, we should see blue. For warn, we should see a yellow color. And then for something unrecognized, we will just get the default color. So let's just set this back to value. It'll be passed in. Okay, index, we're going to actually turn this into a button here. So we'll do that here in a second. But first we're going to use this view and add it as our path for our flex repeater here. So let's go back to the flex repeater now that we have a different view we want to use. Let's go find it, toast instance here. And then let's add an instance. So let's delete this. All we want to pass in are level and text. So level here, let's say success. This is a toast. There we go. We can see that it's too wide. I think we might have to set our toast instance to 360. Something like this. That way it fits inside our container. So let's go back to layout, and there's still a scroll bar. 360. So maybe we can go 355. This doesn't really matter. Obviously, you can play around with this on your own. Let's save and go back into our session, and you can see the first toast. It doesn't look pretty. There are a few errors or a few issues we would want to fix. I also forgot to set the background color. It looks like it's completely translucent or transparent. Okay, let's do that. Let's set the background color on the toast instance. Let's go to root here, and we're going to add background color, maybe even a box shadow. So for our background color here, we want to use a variable called neutral 20. Oops. Okay, it's not going to be transparent anymore, and let's add a box shadow right away. I think this will make it look cool. So I already have this. I found a nice box shadow that I like. There we go. I'm not coming up with this off the top of my head. That would be kind of impressive. So let's update this, and we can see that it has a background now, which I'm not sure I 100% like. Okay. Oh, okay. I think this is why. We set our layout container here. I know why there's a scroll bar to 356 pixels, but our toast instance is, let's look at this again, 355. Let's set it to 350 just to also give it some room. There we go. We got rid of the scroll bar, and now we can also remove the red border. And it looks kind of funny in my opinion. I think it's too tall. So let's go ahead and make it a little, make it not as tall. So I think it's 100 pixels in height. Let's set it to maybe 70, just like that. Maybe 80. Let's do 80 pixels. Okay, and now in our label, let's align vertical top. That way it looks more centered. Okay, I think I like how that looks better. There we go. We can see our toast. Let's remove, like I said, I'm sorry, I'm jumping around a lot, but I'm just doing things in the order I remember. So let's remove this solid red border, delete, and okay, I think you can see the box shadow now. Let's go back to our session. There we go, there's a nice box shadow. It's not really visible because it's cutting off. So let's make our toast flex repeater a little bit wider. So let's make it 365 pixels, there we go. Let's see if that helps us out any. We'll deal with that later. So the only box shadow that's showing is to the left here. That doesn't really matter, it's not that big of an issue. Okay, so let's add a few of them and see how they look if there's more than one. So let's copy this, add, and paste over the top, and paste over the top here, and maybe one more, paste over the top. So you can see that the direction is row. We want it to be actually column, but that's not even what we want. We want it to be column reverse. So we want our most recent notification to appear on the bottom, not on the top. I believe we want column reverse here, and we can actually, let's change these levels. So let's make this info, let's make this warn, and let's make this error. And you can see that the most recent notification is appearing, the newest notification is appearing on the bottom, and then it's going up from there, which is what we want. You could do this column, or this is the first one, and then the more recent ones stack below it, but I like it the other direction better. So let's do column reverse here. One thing we want to add to our element style, let's add a margin bottom to give it some space between. It's a little bit too much. Maybe like that. to give it some space between each of the toasts. And you can see here, nothing happens on the button, but this is how they'll look. Obviously, you can customize every property you see here. So if you think it's still too tall, you can make that whatever you want. So, okay, I just want to get the idea across that you can do this without using a custom component. We're almost done. We have a few more things we need to do, which I believe are important things. The two things I can think of right now is to trigger them or to add a toast here, add an instance, and also to remove one. So I think let's work on removing an instance first. It's pretty simple, and I'll show you how I did this. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to, so this icon here will actually be, it'll act as a button. So let's make cursor be pointer. That way when you hover over it, the cursor changes. That way people can tell that it's clickable. Okay, and now let's add configure event on click. Let's add a script. And what we're going to do, I think there's a send message here. No, so let's add a script, sorry. I don't usually use those predefined actions. I just always add scripts to do everything I want to do. And before I forget, let me zoom in here. So all we're going to do is send a message back to our main layout view and tell it to delete a certain instance by index. So system.perspective.send message. We didn't actually create the message yet, so the message type, which we'll create here in a second, will be delete toast by index, and then we're going to send a payload. This is basically a parameter. We're just sending some information with the message, and the information we're going to send is row index, that's what we'll call it, and this row index will be bound to our param index here, just like this. So let me copy this, that way I get it right. There's no message, there's no receiver receiving this message yet, but we're going to implement that now. Okay, let's hit OK here. Let's go back to our layout view. And then on the flex repeater, let's right click and configure script and add a message handler and paste our name in here, delete toast by index. The page scope here is fine. If you do a view scope, it won't work because it's coming from a different view. And here we're going to, you can check if payload, so if this isn't null, or if it's truthy, I guess, then we will delete our props instances at index payload, there we go, row index. All this is saying is if the row index, which is part of the payload, the parameter sort of, if it's defined, if it's truthy, so if it's not null, if it's not zero, if it's not an empty string, I think those, yeah, if it's not false, then this will execute here. We're going to delete instances is a list. It might be a Python data set or like a wrapper, but it's essentially a list, and we're going to delete this index here. So for example, if we want to delete the first toast, this will be index 0, and we're going to delete it. So let's go ahead and save, and let's save this. Let's go back to our session here and update, and hopefully when we click on one of these, you can see that it disappears, and it's the correct one, and the other ones just move down and take up the space. So if we delete red here, red disappears. If we delete green, we get an error. I think it has to do with our indexing. So let's try it in here. There's something wrong. There's a bug here. we're supposed to be able to click this. Oh, okay. I know why. I just said why it wouldn't work. So we're just checking for the row, payload row index here is 0. And 0 is a falsy value, so this will never execute here. So let's add a statement here, or if payload row index, if it's defined or if it equals 0. So we should catch this now. So you can see that we can delete it. And let's say this again, and you can see in our session, we have our 3 toasts, and we can delete 0, we can delete 0, 1, and we can delete 0, and all of them disappear. Okay, now that we have dismissing toasts, and also you can add your own behavior. For example, if it's a error, don't auto close. But if it's a success, you can have a timer, and then after 5 seconds, it'll just close on its own. We're not going to do that in this video. I have a few more minutes. So the last thing we're going to do is on this button, on my button here, it's covered here by the toasts, but I'm going to add a script to add a toast. So let me go ahead and add a script. This doesn't have to be a button. Like I said earlier, it can be any event you want it to. It can even come from a tag, or any way you want to trigger this, or through a message. I just want to show you what it would look like to add a toast to our instances object. So first we're going to create an object here. All we have to specify is text. Remember, text was our text is the text that's going to display in the toast. This is a new toast. This is just an example. And then our level will be info, actually success, because we don't have a success anymore. So we have our new object, and all we want to do now is append it to the flex repeater props instances, and it'll append it to the end. There we go, just like this, dot append, and then we can append toast. I think this should work. We'll see right now. So let's go ahead and click OK, and let's save and look at it in a session. So now let's hit append. There we go. This is a new toast, and you can see that we're adding toasts, we're deleting toasts. We can delete them out of order, and it still deletes the correct one. So that's about all I had for you guys today. Thank you for watching. I thought this was a useful little trick if you want to improve your user experience, your user interface. I think these are a great device. I know I made a video earlier about Bootstrap style alerts that come up in the top of a view, but I think I like these even better. They're a little less intrusive in my opinion, and they're also it's a pretty neat trick that a lot of modern websites and web applications use today. So thank you for watching once again. I'm going to post a video continuing our Postman series. I think probably our last or second to last video. So once again, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.